do right here is go back. Way back. Back into time.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology.
Celebrating 20 years of New England Championship Wrestling. This is the ReGeneration Podcast.
And now, here are your hosts, Sheldon Goldberg, Joe Matarazzo, and Kevin Castro.
Welcome, everyone. It is time once again for the NECW ReGeneration Podcast. Sheldon Goldberg here, along with Kevin Castro and Joe Matarazzo. Gentlemen, good to have you aboard. How's everybody doing tonight?
All good on this end.
Kev?
Good over here as well.
All right, very good. We've got two more matches in the NECW 20th Anniversary Collection to discuss. And continuing on our theme of international stars in New England Championship Wrestling, we're going to look north of the border, Canada, in a match between Jeremy Prophet, the Canadian sensation Jeremy Prophet, and Genesis, taking on Toronto's Asylum Nick Shepherd and someone who went on to become an NECW heavyweight champion, Brad Hollister. That match taking place on February 8th of 2014. And from there, we are going to take a look at April 21st of 2007, a World Women's Wrestling Tag Team Attraction, Nikki, Roxx, and Ariel, taking on the team of World Women's Wrestling Champion Tanya and Malia Hosaka. So a couple of very interesting matches to discuss this week. We've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about as well. We're going to have some bonus video footage for you. We dipped into the archives and came up with something that I think you'll enjoy. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But right now, let's get to our first match. Jeremy Prophet and Genesis taking on the team of Asylum Nick Shepherd and Brad Hollister. 3/4 of this match are Canadians. And in the history of New England Championship Wrestling, Canada figures very prominently in our history. A gentleman from the Toronto area by the name of Ron Hutchinson, who was a very famous trainer, wrestler prior to that. He trained the likes of Beth Phoenix, he trained the likes of Trish Stratus, he trained the likes of Edge and Christian, amongst many, many others. Numerous Hall of Famers being trained by Ron Hutchinson. He had a promotion in Toronto called the Apocalypse Wrestling Federation, and they would send talent to us. We're going to have to dig up a match of a great tag team called the All-Nighters that appeared for us very early in NECW's history. But Jeremy Prophet and Genesis were out of Montreal. Two guys that I was particularly high on. They didn't get a chance to stick around as long as we would have liked. They had border crossing issues, which was something that, as time went on, it got very difficult for Canadians to cross the border freely into the United States. And while Toronto is not that far away, or I should say Montreal is not that far away, it is drivable to us. Nonetheless, they added quite a bit to NECW. Now, I'm going to start with Kevin, because, Kevin, you were around for Jeremy Prophet, Genesis, and Asylum Nick Shepherd. Let's talk about these guys. Let's talk about their credentials and their impact on NECW.
Right when I first came in, I think it was 2012, in Blackstone. That was the first time I had seen Jeremy Prophet. I remember hearing that he had driven like 10 hours to make it to the show. It was kind of a last-minute entrance into a tournament for the NECW Heavyweight Championship.
Right.
And immediately I was impressed by him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting just working with the guys. When he brought in Genesis was a phenomenal talent. He had the size. He was agile for his size. He was believable. When he talks, he sounds like Bret Hart. And it's funny because working on promos, especially with Jeremy Prophet, because he would take forever. But besides that, he walks through the promos like people would walk through their matches in their head. He paces, he's moving around and stuff. It's kind of funny.
Right.
But he does one of my biggest pet peeves with promos, though, and I cringed a little as I was watching it, which is when they attempt to hold the mic while I'm holding the mic, so we in turn just hold hands for a little bit.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's one of those things where you have to kind of weigh, was the promo good enough to ignore that slight awkwardness, or Again, those guys, I thought they were extremely talented. I think that either one of them, if they were able to stick around, could have carried NECW on their shoulders. And
no question.
Asylum wasn't around as long,
Right.
if I recall.
Right. He was there for a much shorter period of time. Nick Shepard came from Toronto, which is a longer drive than Prophet and Genesis. Those guys came from Montreal, which is about a 6-hour drive. Toronto is more like an 8 or a 9-hour drive. It got very tough for Nick. I mean, he wanted the exposure because we were on TV. He wanted to work. Obviously, a good-looking athlete, guy who could get it done in the ring. My only issue with him is he wanted to call his own shots some of the time, but he was good. He was a good talent. I think, again, it's somebody, had we had more time with him, I think he would have had a bigger impact than he did. Prophet and Genesis were tremendous. Jeremy Prophet had the whole package. He could talk, he could work, he could be a viable presence. The guys didn't like him. The boys did not like Jeremy Prophet. The boys thought that he was eccentric and aloof, and he didn't want to dress with them. He tended to come late quite a bit, but I could forgive a little bit of lateness because of the distance that they traveled. But Genesis, everybody liked. Genesis, gentleman, great kid, great talent, and he's a guy. We had more time with him. Jeremy had a border issue that kept him from coming back, and Genesis continued to come in for a while. And he had a tag team partner, Alex. What was his last name?
Oh, I don't remember now.
Right.
The guy that looked much bigger in hose picture than he did in person.
Right, I thought the guy was going to be 6'3". He was going to be 5'8", I said, where's the rest of you? No, those guys were great. Genesis was just one of those guys who was a project. Many times in wrestling, especially on the independents with guys like this, it takes time for them to develop a comfort level, and it takes time for them to come out of their shell. Genesis was just about getting there when he ran into border crossing issues and couldn't come back. So that was a big loss for us. But let's talk specifically about this particular match. We left promos in there at the beginning, so you get a chance to see Jeremy Prophet's skills on the mic. Let's talk a little bit about the match itself. Your impressions, Kev.
I liked it very much. Asylum, he was a monster in there. I mean, when he picked up Genesis for that stalling suplex and just held him there for what felt like forever, I can only imagine what was going through Genesis's head as he was in that position. Brad Hollister has such natural charisma.
Yes.
There's just something about, like, the second he steps in the ring, he obviously has the skills to back it up. Long list of amateur credentials. I used to love doing promos with him because he was a one and done. He would go in there, just give me a second, and then the second he would go, he would nail it every single time. Like you said, former champion, he carried the company for a little while. Nothing but praise for Brad Hollister.
He was a kid that we took right from Antonio Thomas's school as basically a rookie and built him to where he became our champion. It wasn't the plan, but we had a couple of situations, one of which was an injury to Slick Wagner Brown, who was the champion at the time. He wrecked his knee and was out for a year, and we wanted to put the belt back on Sean Burke, but Burke had other commitments and didn't want to do it, so we did the Cinderella story of Brad Hollister.
Burke was hurt that time, too.
Yeah, right.
I think he hurt his ankle, I want to say, at the time.
That was before. He broke his ankle during his first reign as champion.
I thought during the Iron 8 he was hurt, too. I remember it was a very short match, specifically because he was limited in what he could do. Unless I might be confusing the Iron 8s, but right. I'm almost positive that was what happened.
In any event, Burke was unable to take the mantle as champion, and we put it on Brad Hollister. And that Iron 8 is one of the best events we've ever done. Just the whole Cinderella story of Brad Hollister becoming NECW champion. But getting back to the Canadians, these guys were just a rich resource of talent. And Canada in general is underrated in terms of being a wrestling area. Joe, you weren't around at this time. So
Right.
I've got to ask you, first of all, your impressions of the guys individually, and then we'll talk about the match.
I loved how you opened up with the promo, and the interviewer. I can't remember his name. He was unbelievable. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I like that
who's
guy.
you, Kevin? Yeah.
I like that.
So right out of the gate, we got our first impression. My first impression of both Prophet and Genesis, and hearing them, seeing them, just watching their mannerisms. I was like, all right, now I'm hooked. Now I want to watch the match. And clearly, knowing that these two came together from Canada ahead of time, I was expecting to see exactly what I saw: the cohesiveness, the continuity, the very crisp and smooth when they were in the ring, and the styles meshed very well. Knowing, of course, that Nick Shepherd came from Canada, they were going to have the same type of style, working in the same type of area for so long, and I did not get disappointed. Hollister was my dark horse. I didn't know very much about him. I wasn't around to see his style come around. Knowing Antonio Thomas as long as I have, you can see an awful lot of the details that he would have shown him. And but what a natural athlete, unbelievable. I loved how the teamwork went, the story where Nick got drawn out of the ring towards the end, and it was funny because the referee Kevin, I was watching him, and you watch it now, any of the referees that are out there now. And one of the things that you're always taught, or I was always taught, is that if you take away credibility of the referee, you take away the credibility of the match. If a referee starts to count, or a referee says the referee has to be involved to the point where it looks like a legitimate fight.
Right.
And at the end, just the way Kevin was counting out and made the end of the match, how everything got counted out, Shepherd and everybody else, and then Genesis ended up with the win. I was just impressed with the way it made it. It could have gone so. Man, I'm really tripping over my words here, right?
It's all right. That's why God invented
we'll find
editing.
a place to cut that in.
Right.
I was very impressed with the way that it went down. It looked like a real legitimate ending that I didn't see coming the way I saw it coming, and I was impressed with both teams.
Well, it's interesting. Prophet and Genesis were real life best friends. So, and they had trained together. So, they had their.
It came
act.
across.
Yeah, absolutely. The storyline with Nick Shepherd was an interesting one because we knew that we weren't going to have him for a long time because of the travel issues. So the whole thing was we called him Asylum Nick Shepherd. Jeremy alluded to it in the promo that he came from a mental institution. He was, he is coming back for some sort of revenge on Jeremy Prophet. Well, that's how we wrote him out. We had the guys come in the white coats and haul him away. That was how we got out of that. But no, Nick was a good talent. I mean, I'm surprised that he didn't catch on someplace. I don't know. I know he had tryouts with WWE, he had tryouts with Impact. I don't know what the issue was, but when it came to just bell-to-bell ability, he had it. Jeremy Prophet had a great series of matches with Wagner Brown that we never really resolved. It was kind of one of those things where that could have been the feud that continued on and on, rekindled here and there. They had great matches together. They had a lot of great chemistry in terms of their in-ring work, and we did a lumberjack match, or was it a last man standing match in Cape Cod in Plymouth?
I believe it was either I want to say it was a last man standing.
Yes, that was a great match. We'll have to dig that one up at some point.
The finish of that was fantastic.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic. I won't spoil it, though.
Right. But yeah.
One of the things with Prophet, too, is the way he talked was poetry. The way he moved in the ring was poetry. He was just so fluid. It was amazing. And Nick Shepherd actually also brought in Jasmine.
Yes.
At one point, which is better known now in NXT as Aaliyah.
Right.
So we had her on one of our events as well.
Yeah, in order to reduce this cost, we used to bring a carload of guys that we'd have to put on the show from Canada. So it caused some problems here and there, but it was all right. we managed to figure it out. This is a particular favorite match of mine because it really showcases all of these guys and shows you what they added to NECW. You know, this was a time when the independent scene started to change. And what was important to me as a promoter and also from the booking aspect of things is to give our audience a show that wasn't like anybody else's. You know, it got to the point where everybody was working on everybody else's show. There's a lot of sameness and so forth. So to have a crew of people come in from north of the border that nobody else was using, that were all quality workers like this, that was a big asset for us, just a huge plus. So
real unique.
Yeah, exactly. And I miss that crew terribly. I miss them terribly. Kevin will tell you. I agree. I would talk about it all the time. Jesus, I wish we had Genesis back. I wish we had Prophet back. You know, they just added so much to NECW. And again, that's the plus that you get when you have that type of open doors policy, that you're looking for talent that's outside the area and willing to come in. You present a product that engages people in a way that other companies don't. So let's move a little bit back in time now to a Triple W tag team matchup. This is a very notable match. It's Nikki, Roxx, and Ariel teaming. They were a very effective tag team. Both women were very popular with NECW fans, taking on the team of Tanya Lee, the very underrated Tanya Lee. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the veteran Malia Hosaka. Joe, you were around for this, am I correct?
I was. I had just come on board not that long before this match.
Right. This is when World Women's Wrestling was really kind of just getting its legs under it. One of the things that we wanted to do is to bring in a veteran presence to work with some of the girls. And that was Malia Hosaka. Malia, great veteran. For whatever reason, you know, she would have little runs with WCW. She had a little run with ECW years ago. She did some dates with Impact, but she never really caught on a regular basis anyplace. But nonetheless, she still wrestles today, still looks good, still can work and go. And I know that Ariel in particular thought of her as a great mentor. But Joe, you weren't around then, so let me start with you. What did you think about this matchup?
I remember watching this match because I knew who Malia was. Just because of her presence on television at that point. And what I remember is watching both Ariel and Roxy being able to hold their own with her, and really the work was really good. And that's when I knew, you know what, those two girls right there. Unfortunately, Tanya was on the same team as Malia, so I didn't get to see her work her. But Tanya kept up with everybody. But
right.
The other two, Roxy and Ariel, really shined with Malia. She really brought out the best in them. And this, again, it follows the same thing that we say, that you work up to the people that you're in there with.
Right.
When you have a veteran like her, it really can drag out the best in those girls. And what a great match it was. It was really good. And, of course, Sean Gorman being there.
Right.
Sean Gorman wasn't a very big presence during this match.
He didn't need to.
He didn't. And that was good. This is where he knows his role. He knew exactly where to place himself.
Right.
He knew what he had to do towards the end of the match, and he played his strengths. He let them do what they had to do. He stayed in the background of them all. He didn't try to steal any of the shine from them. And when he needed to do what he needed to do, he did it, and it made sense. And for a while there, I actually forgot he was even there.
Right.
Until he got into the camera shot, which I thought was phenomenal. And again, watching Rich Bass, there was a point he went down to make a count, and Tanya was going to count Ariel. Ariel's shoulders were not down on the mat. A lot of guys would have just started to. He stopped and. No, she's not down. And they reset, and you know, again, the credibility of the referee on the match. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Kevin, what did you think about?
Highly entertained. I think it's the first time I had ever seen Nikki, Roxx, and Ariel team. I've normally seen them against each other. It was also the first time I've actually seen Tanya Lee. I've heard the name. I had never seen her work. One of the things that immediately jumped out to me was the rolling pins into the turnbuckle, where they went from one corner to the other. I'd never seen that before. I'm surprised I had never seen that before. I'm surprised I haven't seen it since. The finish looked like it killed Ariel, legitimately. And the crowd interaction, they were all over the heels.
Yep.
You know, it was, on the one hand, it was enjoyable because they're doing that job. Me taking a closer look and a listen to some of the things that the fans were yelling was kind of surprising. You know, granted, this was, you know, there's been years in between where some of the things that are being yelled are not as acceptable. But they took it with stride and they asked for more.
You know, it's interesting. Nikki Roxx, the way that she had been promoted by us, little girls loved her, just looked at her with total awe. Ariel, too, had a great rapport with the fans when she was in the face role. You know, she could be a dirty, vicious heel, but as a babyface, she was just a great one with the fans. I mean, people really loved her. They just thought she was this, you know, the Portuguese princess. She really was a little princess to them. And together as a team, I mean, they were really very, very well liked. And then you've got, you know, as I say, Tanya Lee, very, very underrated. Very, very underrated. She's someone who doesn't get the credit that she deserves for being as good in her role as she was. She was the one that we put the title on after we knew we had to take the title off of Nikki Roxx, and it was a good choice. Nikki was much better in the chase position, and that way, if she had to go, if she got signed someplace, and we had to let her out, we'd be all set. You know, we wouldn't have any issues that way. But just a great match, and Malia added so much to it. You know, the girls, especially now Nikki and Ariel both had quite a bit of experience. They weren't exactly rookies by any stretch of the imagination. They were both doing Shimmer. They had both traveled around a lot. They had both wrestled in Mexico. They've wrestled in a number of places. So it's not like they were rookies. But having that type of veteran in Malia Hosaka to work with and bounce off of, it made the match just that much better. So really a great hallmark Triple W match. And we had done an angle with Malia coming into Triple W a month or so before, where Ariel challenges her and pins her. And that set up this particular match. So it's interesting stuff. Earlier today, we're taping this on Wednesday, the 25th of November, and earlier today got some very sad news that Bob Ryder, who was one of the founders of Impact Wrestling, passed away. He had been battling cancer for some time. Bob Ryder was somebody who was actually a very critical figure in pro wrestling in the 90s and beyond. Bob Ryder ran the Prodigy message board for wrestling in the 90s and was sort of a pioneer of internet coverage of pro wrestling back in that era. Prodigy would cover the ECW shows at the ECW Arena Live. I think that a lot of the things that he and other writers like Dave Shearer, they eventually went into business together and created OneWrestling.com. They really changed wrestling journalism to be more internet-based and more interactive with people. He was a pioneer of that. And later went on to create with the Jarretts TNA Wrestling. Towering figure, a great guy, somebody that I used to write columns for OneWrestling.com, so I knew Bob Ryder. Quality individual, great guy. The talent in TNA will tell you. Bob had a travel agency and handled all the travel and arrangements for all the Impact Wrestling talent, even up until very recently. So he's someone that had a great rapport with talent and a great rapport with people, always willing to help somebody out. Just a good guy, and you know, he had been battling cancer for some time. He outlived his diagnosis by years. I forgot to mention that he hosted WCW Live online, the audio show. That was the forerunner of wrestling podcasts like this one. So Bob was a real pioneer in a lot of respects, and very sad that he passed away. I don't know if you guys were familiar with Bob Ryder at all, but Bob was a help to me when I was publishing my newsletter, Matt Marketplace. He contributed some stuff to that. So just a really good guy and a great loss. So I'm sorry to hear that. We have some bonus video we're going to get to in just a moment. We dipped into the archives a little bit, and we're going to show you a match that takes place in February of 2010. This was from television. It's a match between the future Oney Lorcan. Is it Oney or is it Oney?
Oney.
Oney, okay.
I think it is Oney.
Yeah, I mean, in this particular juncture of his career, he was known as Biff Busick. He takes on the Latin Braveheart, Ryan Bisbal. Let's show you the match, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Boy, Sheldon, listen to that crowd.
Ryan Bisbal, big fan favorite here in New England Championship Wrestling. This Biff Busick, he looks like an individual to be reckoned with.
He definitely looks like, I mean, the kid looks like he's been made out of granite. Don't take anything away from the physique of Ryan Bisbal.
No, not at all. Ryan Bisbal, of course, in tremendous condition. He's quite the veteran, quite the accomplished star. Held numerous titles in the IWA promotion in Puerto Rico.
That's right.
He was the IWA Junior Heavyweight Champion. He was the one half of the IWA Tag Team Champions. He was the IWA Hardcore Champion.
Wow.
Ryan Bisbal coming to New
look
England
at
Championship
this.
Wrestling with tremendous credentials. And this Biff Busick is giving this young man a run for his money.
This is tremendous. They haven't let go of each other. And they won't. Oh, they got him now, though.
Busick with Bisbal in the corner. Breaks clean. Showing off there by Biff Busick.
Biff, huh?
I don't know too many people named Biff.
I wonder if his parents were big fans of the old Batman movies and shows with.
You never know.
Hey, his name could have been Kablam, so I guess Biff's all right.
Side headlock now by Biff Busick. Well, he's got it cinched in tight, Joe.
Yeah, he does.
He's got him really locked up. Give me a cauliflower ear. Oh, what a shoulder tackle. Biff Busick sending Ryan Bisbal down to the canvas.
This one's a little tough to call, Sheldon.
Busick's got the size advantage. Tremendous condition.
Spending an awful lot of time showing off, though.
Yeah. This is New England Championship Wrestling. Ain't Joe Weider here, you know?
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you, that little pose of his, a little shade of Jesse the Body Ventura.
Bisbal now back into the ropes. Off he goes. And a shoulder tackle this time. Bisbal leveling Biff Busick.
Wow. That little Latino temper of his just came exploding out.
Oh, what a slap to the face.
Oh, wait a minute.
Bisbal with a side headlock. He's clamping down now on the
yeah.
ears of Biff Busick. Off the ropes now. Bisbal. Nice leapfrog by Busick.
Ooh.
Into a hip toss. And Bisbal hit the deck hard.
Ooh.
Bisbal kicked him away. And now Bisbal
Wow.
drops him. Big body slam There he goes.
Oh, man.
He held him up for a while.
He sure did.
Standing drop kick. Levels Biff Busick.
Boy, Bisbal showing some serious strength of his own, holding him up there as long as he did.
Oh, Bisbal's an explosive performer. He's going up the ropes now.
Oh, no.
Oh,
man.
Busick just knocked him out. He just rammed his leg on those steel steps.
He came down hard, Sheldon.
Busick rolled to the outside. Busick favoring his rib cage. And now, Busick with an elbow on the outside. Bisbal hobbling around.
He hit those stairs really hard, Sheldon.
Busick pushing Bisbal back into the ring.
Boy, a lot of trash talking out of this Biff Busick.
Busick firing away. Softening up the back of Ryan Bisbal. Bisbal now. Drop kick and a cover, only gets one. Bisbal with a shot to the midsection and another. Busick firing away.
Oh, man.
Off the ropes goes Bisbal. Oh, Bisbal hangs on.
Oh, nice.
Kicks Busick right in the chest. Nice work by Bisbal. Bisbal rolled him over. Oh, and Busick.
Man.
What a move by Busick. Here's a cover. Only two.
Boy, this Busick really packs a wallop, doesn't he?
He sure does. He's got some quickness. Obviously in great condition. Bisbal sent face first to the buckle by the newcomer, Biff Busick. Oh, what a shot to the back. Bisbal now with a shot to the midsection and another. Ooh, but Busick fires away.
Well, Busick is just all over Ryan Bisbal.
Bisbal to the corner. Here comes.
Oh, man.
Busick got a knee right to the chest. He caught that right under his chin. Oh, man. Right into the turnbuckle went Ryan Bisbal. That took the wind out of him. Bisbal has him up.
Oh, there you go.
Down face first into the canvas. What a matchup, Joe.
Oh, what a right hand.
Tremendous matchup to kick us off this week here on New England Championship Wrestling.
Boy, we don't disappoint, do we?
No, Genesis 9 in the history books this past week, a phenomenal event, one of the best we've ever put on. And now you're seeing New England Championship Wrestling at its best. Busick tries to fire away. Bisbal cuts him off. Bisbal. Fist and fire here on Biff Busick. Busick now reverses, sends Bisbal off the ropes. Bisbal ducks the clothesline. Bisbal now with a shoulder tackle. Sends Busick to the canvas. Busick gets leveled by the foot of Ryan Bisbal. Bisbal with a kick to the midsection. Busick reverses, sends Bisbal into the corner. Busick charges in, but meets the elbow of Ryan Bisbal. Oh, neck breaker.
Man.
Nice work by Bisbal. Boy, he just ducked under and snuck under and dropped him.
Sure did.
Here's a cover. And it's, only two.
Almost. He almost had him. Boy, Ryan Bisbal's really taking some punishment in this match.
These two have really gone at each other. Biff Busick making his debut. He wants to impress here in New England Championship Wrestling, and he's certainly done that. But what better way to impress than a victory over Ryan Bisbal? Bisbal
man.
at the top, but nobody home.
Boy, Biff Busick really scouted his opponent tonight, didn't he?
He sure did. Busick now with a big fist measuring his man. Oh, man, he just rocked the jaw of Ryan Bisbal. And again,
3 unanswered shots.
Bisbal now right behind his opponent. Bisbal, Busick with an elbow to the back of the head and another. Bisbal tried for a Russian leg sweep, didn't get it. Instead, Busick took control. Busick setting him up, trying for a backslide. Bisbal trying to fight it.
Oh, look at this.
Bisbal sends him over the top. Busick now has a Bisbal.
Oh, man.
Oh my gosh. Face first right into the canvas. Bisbal with a cover. And that's 3.
Wow.
And your winner of the match, Ryan Bisbal.
The sensational Ryan Bisbal scoring the victory this week over the newcomer, Biff Busick.
Boy, this Biff Busick really gave him a run for his money, though, didn't he?
Well, you can bet we're going to hear more from one Biff Busick and Ryan Bisbal taking home the victory. You know, this kid's going to be a champion here in New England Championship Wrestling sooner rather than later.
It's only a matter of time.
All right, when we come back, we'll have words from the NECW television champion, the Heat Chris Pyro, plus World Women's Wrestling action and much more when New England Championship Wrestling continues after this.
All right. Biff Busick versus the Latin Braveheart Ryan Bisbal. Kevin, your thoughts?
Right off the bat, I mean, Biff had, I don't want to say it was a unique look, but it was a unique look. You know, he was massive. I don't know, there's something about him that just, I don't want to say doesn't look right, but it does. I don't know. I very much like the match. The way Biff sells is absolutely fantastic. The first shoulder tackle that he took, and he does basically like a back somersault, really made Ryan look strong. I thought it was great. The finish, again, looked vicious. And again, someone that has unmeasured charisma.
He wasn't around too long with us. I think he may have only had 1 or 2 more matches if he had any other matches with us at that particular point. But we used him on TV, which was what he wanted to have happen. He's someone that we could have done a lot more with, but he didn't stay in the area. I think he went up to Lance Storm and trained with him. He went down to Texas, I believe. He may have trained with Rudy Gonzalez, and everybody told him he was ready. Everyone told him he was ready to go, and it took a while, but he finally caught on. Joe, what are your recollections of this since you called it with me?
It's so funny to hear it when we were watching it, because there's so many things that came out that when we were putting the storylines together, what was happening and the story being told between you and I, and remembering just how popular Ryan Bisbal was at this point. That kid was hot. He was on fire, un fuego, and this kid was, and just a great kid. But I'll tell you what impressed me, and I forgot about it when you told me this was going to be the bonus match. I had to see it again. When the very first lockup, those guys didn't let go. They grabbed each other, threw each other, rolled through, never let go. It was a competition from the word go. They were trying to win. I loved it. I was completely hooked again watching the match for the second time. As they were going, the strength matchup between the two, you could see it. And like Kevin said, you look at Biff, and the kid was a specimen. What did he have? 0.3% body fat. The guy was just, you could shred lettuce off his abs, for crying out loud. So now you put him in there with Ryan Bisbal, who's no slouch, a lot bulkier, but not, maybe not as cut, but man, they matched up nicely together. And the test of strength was awesome. It was with Biff, it was the little things that he did. Something as easy as reversal of an Irish whip, and he'd swing himself down to his knee and really looked like he put everything he had into it to throw Ryan the other way. It really looked like there was a struggle there. There was a force that he was trying to beat. I love the competition part. Great clean finish for the final. The big pop for Ryan at the end. Dynamite match.
Bisbal, by the way, was no slouch. I mean, he was a title holder in IWA Puerto Rico before coming to this part of the country and settling down here and working for NECW. And he had a couple of different titles working for IWA in Puerto Rico. He had a good measure of experience before coming to NECW. Another guy that really didn't stick around that long. I mean, he was around when NECW, that version of NECW went down. And I think he worked a little bit for PWF afterwards, but he's not retired now. He's not wrestling at all. His wife, Ivy, great talent. Another one, always in great shape. Yeah, she was fantastic. The two of them were really, really great talents and great people. It's funny how we talk about how we were so fortunate to have the talent that we had. You know, Bisbal falls into that category. He's somebody that we lucked into. Just somebody who had moved here from Puerto Rico, and there he was with experience and charisma, and just really a terrific young talent. I thought this was really a great match. Showcased both men really, really well. Again, Bisbal, incredibly popular. And, Biff Busick, what a great character. He's a guy that you could have done a lot with if he had stuck around. I want to know, I wish I were a fly on the wall when WWE said, we're going to change your name, kid. We're going to call you Oney Lorcan. What in the hell is an Oney?
Didn't care.
I mean, I'm sure he didn't care, but I mean, Oney? What kind of an?
I'm wondering if he had any influence in that, though, because a lot of times they'll have you write down a bunch of different names, and they'll sort of mix and match. So that maybe that's got special sentimental value to him. I don't know. It's not easy to say.
This is
right
true.
Off the bat, but
right.
I would be interested to hear that conversation.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, he's had some incredible matches.
Yes.
He's got a real good, strong style, and it's again the same type of thing that we watched 10 years ago. That we just watched 10 years ago. He's still doing that style, and it's working, and it's bringing in a different fan base.
Right.
With that really, really tough, stiff style.
No pun intended.
Snug style.
Right. Right. But no, I was wondering what the hell was up with that name. I mean, of all the names they could have given the kid, I thought it was Oney for a while, and then they give him a kayfabe brother and call him Tui.
Now it'd be in Shakira.
That's right. Exactly. Or Oney. I thought, well, maybe it's short for baloney. I don't know. Well, how did they get this?
Biff wasn't too much better to begin with. Which
no,
is awesome.
No. But, remember WWE had Bully Busick years ago, so they probably didn't want to have another Busick. Yeah, so a mystery. One of those WWE mysteries.
But happy for him. Another person who passed through the doors and made it to the gates.
Exactly. And he went all over the place to do it. So he's a kid that paid his dues, and really great athlete, great talent, and we were fortunate to have him for the time that we did. Let's get to what we're watching this week. I got a couple that I want to talk about. One is the documentary that WWE did on the late Paul Bearer called Mortician on the WWE Network. Have either of you seen this?
I have not.
It's quite good.
Me either.
Quite good. They did a documentary on the WWE career of Paul Bearer and his history, and that he was an actual mortician. He was a great guy. I met him a number of times, and just was really a terrific human being. Gone too soon, but just a guy who lived his dream. Go out of your way to see that, because it was really good. Did either of you watch Survivor Series?
Yes.
I didn't watch much of it. I wanted to see what they did with The Undertaker, closing out his career. I was sad that it wasn't in front of a real crowd.
Yeah.
That really... And the other thing that was sad was Vince McMahon.
Yes.
Vince just looks like this shriveled old man now.
Yeah.
With too much makeup on.
Yes.
I just, you have to ask yourself, is this guy all right? I hope he's all right. I mean, Vince McMahon is known as a workaholic, a guy that believes that sleep is the enemy and all this.
Right.
Well, that shit's catching up to him, man. I mean, he just looked...
It's definitely catching up to him.
Yeah, he just looked the worse for wear.
He looked old.
Yeah.
And you hate to say that about Vince.
Right.
But he did. He looked old.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the guy's in his 70s. The guy, like you said, is a workaholic. He still got the job done, and you understood why he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I do agree, though. I wish we could have had 70,000, 100,000 people for that. Of course, you're only going to have a 30th anniversry once, and it landed on the exact date. You had to do it when they had to do it, or it wasn't going to do it at all. And I thought it was very well done.
Yep.
The video package, again, they're bar none some of the greatest people that put a video package together for them.
Absolutely.
I was a little lost as to why they had all the guys come out and then not have them be there at all, even at ringside.
Yeah.
I thought that was odd. Because
even
they came
even
out
Vince,
with all the pomp and circumstances, and
right.
They all went in, shook everyone's hand, stood there, and then gone.
Then you didn't see him.
Yep.
Right. And I'm glad they gave the ring to him, which I would have wanted them on the outside, but then maybe. But I he had to do his last walk up the ramp. He did spend a lot of time down on that knee with that hand cup that he does.
Right.
And he spent his time, and the hologram of Paul Bearer.
Oh my God, that was great.
Awesome.
That was great. Oh,
absolutely great touch.
Tremendous. Yes.
Way to do it, and I'm sure it got to him. I'm sure he was emotional during that time.
What a career! Maybe the greatest career ever in pro wrestling.
The greatest character of all time.
Right. And that's what's funny too. If you the character on paper. If someone was to show you, you're going to be a mortician that's going to be called the Dead Man, and to think that that's going to last 30 years is crazy. I mean, granted, he's changed it along the way, but he ended up bringing it almost back to what it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely deserves every accolade that he's received as a talent, as a character. I mean,
and he's the last one. Yeah. That kept kayfabe through his entire 30-year career as The Undertaker.
Oh,
he didn't do interviews.
Stuff now.
But you know what? It brings a whole new element. You want the interest is there. Yeah. You want to hear because nobody's heard him. Nobody's heard from Mark Calloway.
Right.
And this is so now, he's just extended his career without damaging his body till he's done talking.
My only encounter with The Undertaker was being a druid in WrestleMania 14.
Oh, wow.
That's fantastic.
Holding the flaming torch. And he actually said 4 words to me. Don't burn my hair.
And you listened.
I certainly did. All of us did. What happened was Jim Cornette called Tony Rumble to get a group of us together to be the druids for The Undertaker and hold the flaming torches in the Fleet Center, Boston Garden, whatever. Man, what a thrill to be involved in something like that. I mean, there's Hollywood movies that don't have that many people running around working on it.
Right.
We rehearsed it in the afternoon, and man, what a thing to be a part of. My God. And that was the year that they had Pete Rose, who couldn't get out of there fast enough after he was done.
That was fantastic.
Yeah. What a thrill. Arnold Skolin paid me out of the legendary Halliburton briefcase. They had all the cash. They stood in the line with all the rest of the talent. Everybody, what's your name, son? Oh, okay, here you go. Sign this. Here you go.
Wow.
Yeah. Man, I knew I'd made it then. Crazy. So if I never do anything else again, this will be something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. So.
Sure.
Yeah. But other than the Undertaker in Survivor Series, what else stood out to you guys?
I would say the match of the night was probably New Day against Street Profits. In fact, I think that was for me, that was the only real enjoyable match, unfortunately.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of McIntyre and Roman Reigns.
Well, let me ask you guys an opinion on this. So, the Dusty finish.
Right, of course.
It's legendary.
Mm-hmm.
So, is the Vince finish now just a punch in the balls? Because that's whenever they have someone that they, can't afford to lose in quotation marks, it's a low blow into the finish. Constantly.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar, that's the only way you can beat him.
Right.
When Shinsuke Nakamura turned heel, that's all he was doing. Yep. And now, again, they go back to it one more time with Reigns and McIntyre. They already had the interference. It wasn't really necessary, but it was just that the Vince finish. Or I believe Michael Hayes was the agent for that, so maybe that's a Michael Hayes finish now.
Maybe so. Just the whole booking and finishes and all this stuff in recent years has gone downhill.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm wondering if it's writers versus bookers.
Probably so.
You don't have bookers anymore.
Exactly.
They're all writers.
People who are, supposedly Hollywood writers that are just taking, is this just a regular gig for them? It's, I don't see, unless you were a fan, I don't understand why you would want to do it.
Right.
Because it's not like they're winning any awards for the writing.
This is true.
Well, that's for damn sure.
You know what I mean? So what is the benefit other than a paycheck to wanting to write for wrestling?
Well, the cash.
Yeah, there's a lot of it there.
They're pretty well paid, so, But,
And it pads your resume.
They've lost the art of it. They've lost the soul of it somewhere along the way. And you're right. I mean, there's no more bookers anymore. It's writers. And wrestling is poorer because of it. Wrestling requires wrestling minds to write it, to put it together. It's not something that people out of Hollywood that have never been in the ring before or haven't been fans of the business can really do effectively. And they've convinced themselves that that's not the case. They've convinced themselves that they're just an action-adventure TV show, and it can be written by Hollywood writers like any other television show that's scripted. And it's not the case. It's a different thing altogether.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I think it's that corporate mentality. I mean, just to put it in perspective to stuff that's going on this week.
Mm-hmm.
So you figure the day after Thanksgiving, the biggest shopping day of the year. If you look back years ago, they would have crazy sales. That you would want to go out. You had to be there between certain hours and stuff, or else the sale wouldn't be there or the product wouldn't be there anymore. Then all of a sudden, it sort of grew a little bit more, and corporations were like, well, why are we giving the stuff away when the people are going to be out shopping anyways? We'll just have an all-day sale. And then those sales seem to have gotten smaller. So it went from being something that was, this big event for shoppers to something that was, we're just going to drum up sales real fast.
Right.
Now, if you put that in the perspective of wrestling, they've gone away from creating the big stars like a Hogan or an Austin or a Rock. And now they're focused on, we're the brands. People are coming to see, they're here to see the WWE. Is that the case?
No one will be bigger than WWE.
That's right.
Because once you do that, they have control. Guys like Cena, guys like Rock, guys like Austin, because they were so over, they were superstars. They had the control. They could go to Vince and say, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do that. And he had to listen to him because they were bigger than the company.
Absolutely.
They won't allow anybody. They haven't, and they're not going to allow anybody to get bigger than them. Look at Rusev. Rusev got over so organically. He was over to the moon, and they crushed him. And they stifled him, and they pushed it down.
Right.
Zack Ryder, another one. They were cheering for him over Rock. And because he got himself... It used to be, just find a way to get yourself over. And they ran with you. But now, if they don't want you to get over, they'll make sure you don't. And they'll push you down and push you down the bottom of the card to where, or you won't even be on TV. Or you'll end up back on NXT.
Paul Heyman started that with ECW. It got to a point where he wasn't promoting. When they would come to town, you wouldn't see particular matches being promoted See Sabu, see Rob Van Dam, see the Dudley Boys, see all the stars of ECW instead of this guy versus this guy, or this match and that match. That's
right.
a change that I think Paul really is the one that instituted.
But the difference with that, though, is when you went to an ECW show, you knew you were going to see something that you hadn't seen before. You knew that you were going to see something wild. You knew that you were going to see something extreme, obviously, since that was right in the name. You don't have that now with the WWE.
No.
It's...
Now you're going to see the superstars of the WWE.
It's like the Harlem Globetrotters or the Ice Capades or whatever.
Look at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Years and years ago, they would have that slow build, and you'd have that feud, and then the big payoff would be WrestleMania.
Right.
Now, you don't even know the full card until 2 days before the event.
And then they change it.
Right.
And there's too many pay-per-views right now.
Oh, absolutely.
There should be no more than 6. And that's it. And even that's going too far. I think they should go back to the original 4.
That'll never happen.
I know it won't, but that's the problem.
Well, now that they have the network, they could just do them as specials and not leave the 4 big pay-per-views, and it's a totally different industry than it was years ago. And part of that is the medium itself, the medium of television, the medium of streaming media. Part of it is that. And the other part is that I think that we've gotten to the point that people accept that this is the way wrestling is done, and it's not the case. People accept, there's writers. How many times, I can't tell you how many times people have written to me and saying, I'd like to work for NECW, I want to write the storylines. Oh, come on. I want to be the booker. Dude, you don't walk into wrestling as a booker.
Not how it works.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, people think that.
And even when we did it, we had a team of people. It wasn't just one person. You set the guy that we came up with the ideas, and then certain would build on each other's ideas as we went. They all had to make sense. We shot down ideas. We made made continuity with everything.
Right.
And that's what's missing in the WWE. Look, perfect example. Why in God's name do you have Rikishi in the building and don't have him do one thing with his sons and Roman Reigns?
Right.
Yeah.
What an opportunity missed. If when Roman came out and threw Jey Uso out of there, I want you out of my sight, get out of here. If the door opened behind Roman and out of the same room comes their dad, Rikishi, and he looks at him and goes, you listen to your cousin, go. And he was sitting in the room with you just increased that story. What an opportunity missed. You haven't come out for and look at I'm here for the dead man. Now you've just connected the dots. What's Rikishi doing? I'm here for the dead man tonight. Right. That's where I'm going. I'm going up to see pay my respects to the Undertaker tonight. And I just so happened to be talking to your cousin.
Right.
Man, they missed it. He's in the building. It's stuff like that and I'm sure Paul Heyman obviously would have been advocating for that. He wouldn't have missed that.
Right.
He's been involved heavily with that whole angle and storyline. And that had to be a Vince thing where Vince just said, nope, he's here for the dead man. We don't let anybody know who's here, nothing, and just threw it out the door. But again, and I don't know if he's getting too set in his ways, too old. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
He's definitely missing a step here and there.
It doesn't matter who you are or how. Everybody has their run. Vince may have had his. Right. I mean, the things that a 70-year-old man likes and enjoys aren't the same as the things a 30 or a 40-year-old or a 20-year-old likes and enjoys.
I know. I like.
So is he out of touch?
How can he not be? It doesn't matter. I mean, age does that. You need to rely on other people.
But even the storytelling. Okay, look at Ravishing Rick Rude goes out to the crowd to pull a woman in, and it's Jake the Snake Roberts' wife.
Right.
And that incites a feud. Fast forward 30 years later, a guy says, I'm going to feed you dog food. And then they fight for 7 months over dog food.
Right.
It makes no sense.
Right.
And it's sad if you're a wrestling fan and you're trying to defend being a wrestling fan to non-wrestling fans.
Right.
It's it's got this national platform, on network television in prime time, and they're not taking advantage of it and putting on a product that's going to make people who are again, I doubt people even flick channels anymore. But if by some, I know that if I see a ring, I'm stopping for at least 30 seconds to see what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a real crisis of continuity in pro wrestling. I was watching United Wrestling Network Primetime Live, and I like the show. Very friendly with Dave Marquez. I think the world of Dave. I think the world of what he's done and what he's attempted to do. But I watched that show, and there's a real absence of continuity. The matches are good, the talent is good, but there's no continuity. There's no connection to the talent. He's using an interesting mix of people. He's got some of his Championship Wrestling from Hollywood crew. He's got some of the New Japan Dojo crew. He's got some of the NWA crew. And then he'll get some other people, random people here and there. For example, this past week, they had Leo Rush. Next week, Davey Smith Jr. is going to be on. I mean, they got an interesting group. They had Mike Bennett, interesting group of talent, interesting group of people, but they're not focusing on anyone or anything long enough for it to be interesting. They do a series of promos at the very beginning of the show. I'm going to be wrestling blah, blah, blah tonight. Well, they'll talk during the commentary about how, these two have an issue that goes back to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood last week. Well, show it. Don't just tell us. Show a clip. Do a recap. We did that with our television all the time. We would do recaps.
Yeah, we did.
And reinforce the story that you're trying to tell. It's a crisis of continuity. People forget how important that is in getting a point across. Repetition is important in order to accomplish that. And also being able to give the talent a space to get themselves familiar to the audience. If you don't give them that space, it's just another match. It's just another couple of people in the ring. I find AEW has a similar problem. A lot of their stuff just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of holes. Much as I enjoy the talent and as much as I want to enjoy what they're doing, I find that continuity is a real issue there. And there's also a lack of heat. They seem to focus on a lot of funny stuff and not enough on, heated issues between people. So, it's something that I think wrestling really needs to focus on in order to get itself back on track. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's how I feel. That's how
I think it's real difficult without a crowd. I think it's very, very difficult for the guys to get over without having a crowd there to get the heat that they want. AEW has a small crowd, which that 500 people or whatever can sound like 10,000 at times.
Right.
But I can't put the blame on the boys, or the girls. I've got to put it more on the writing and what's gone on. AEW is a lot more lax and lets the guys do a little bit more. It's more bullet point issues for them to get over, as opposed to scripted promos and such. But I think that there's a big continuity issue. There's the dots in AEW. They got a lot of tightening of the screws. They really got to just cinch it in a little bit more, or it's going to get away from them. There's a lot of even they changed all their rules with the countouts and the amount of time that you get for double team moves for tag teams. On the tag in, it's a 10 count, not a 5 count. Championship match, but they don't stick to them.
Right.
They're very loose with the rules. If you're gonna change the rules and just enforce them,
right?
Make those rules. They're so good on so many things. They just gotta cinch it in a little bit more, and I think they'll be all right.
Right.
Before they start losing people.
I think they rely on the internet too. Being the elite on YouTube. I think they rely almost too much on that to develop the characters, assuming that the people who are watching Dynamite are also watching that, which probably isn't necessarily the case.
That's true. AEW Dark. I don't have time to watch all that stuff. Who has time to watch everything?
That's what that. I was actually thinking about that the other day. Is when I was younger, constantly looking for wrestling because you had WWE, then I found Global, then WCW, and all these different things, and it was always I want more. Now you have wrestling on pretty much every day but Thursday, and it's too much.
And if you wanted it on Thursday, there's places where you can find it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's over 17 hours a week of new content of wrestling. That's over 17 hours a week.
And we talked last week about Pluto TV. They've got a 24-hour Impact Wrestling channel. There's a 24-hour AAA channel. Yep. I mean, if you want wrestling, you can find it.
And the network.
Yeah.
The network's 24/7.
That's right.
YouTube. Yes.
I mean, it's a
glut.
You
find anything out there.
It's a glut. It's a glut of... And you've got to really have something pretty darn special to capture people's attention and hold it. And hold enough of an audience to make it go. NWA is restarting their weekly shows again very soon. It's going to be called Shockwave. Next Tuesday, I believe. Of course, that'll be when this is airing. So it'll be interesting to see that. We'll talk about that on our next episode and see what that's all about. I was asked by somebody if we're gonna put up any more Century Wrestling Alliance footage, and the answer to that is no. I put up the TV episode that you saw because I had run across it in my files and because it was reinforcing the point of international talent in NECW, and I had a personal connection to that and wanted to thematically fit that into what we did as a company coming from Century Wrestling Alliance and NWA New England. But it's not our footage, and we don't monetize it. We're not making any money off of that footage. We're not trying to make any money off of that footage. Pat Doyle, who was the original producer of all that stuff with Tony Rumble, has all that stuff somewhere in a basement gathering dust. I think it's a shame that it's not out there. I mean, you watch that TV, it's so good. It's so head and shoulders above anything out there of its kind. I mean, I hate to say it, but I have to say it. It was head and shoulders technically above anything that we were doing years later. It had a certain entertainment level, but it also had a polish to it as well. I mean, if you watch that episode that we put up, I mean, it's tremendous. It's certainly better than anything Mario Savoldi put out. I didn't want our company to be forgotten. I didn't want all the stuff that we did to be forgotten. That's why we did this 20th anniversary collection of matches. That's why we're doing this podcast. I think the things that we did were in many cases groundbreaking and important. We weren't the only ones doing groundbreaking and important things, but we did them, and they deserve to be recognized, and they deserve to be remembered, and there are a lot of lessons to them, and there is going to be a future. We're going to do other things at some point in time. Yes, there's a pandemic going on, and no, we can't do any live events right now, but, we don't want to... If you forget your past, you have no future. At least that's my opinion. And I wanted to make sure that not only did we share this content with people, but tell you what was behind that content. What was going on at the time, who the people were that were involved, why they were special, why they were important. I'd like to think that we've accomplished that with this. I mean, we still have a little ways to go in terms of the 20th anniversary collection. We still have some more matches to talk about, but we're more than halfway through. And I'm interested in what people's collective thoughts are about what we've put out there. It's funny because each of you have been involved with NECW at different points in time and not through the entire period of time. So you're seeing some of this stuff with fresh eyes for the first time, which I find to be interesting. But, you've both worked with me closely enough and know me well enough to know pretty well what I'm trying to accomplish and, where I'm trying to go with things. I don't know how you've how you've reacted to what you've seen in terms of its totality so far. What have you taken away from what you've seen thus far in this series?
I on my end,
yeah,
I look at it as the stuff that we did when I was there was, I mean, it was the greatest thing I had ever been a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Then to see the stuff that you did after me, I wish I was a part of. It was so much fun. It brought back so many good memories. It's funny, they talk about the bug and you get the bite.
Right.
And how can you not get bitten by the stuff that we did? We created that.
Yeah.
We were involved in that. We made it happen, you know.
Yeah.
Sheldon, you and I, we not only did the people that we had working with us tell the story in the ring, we got to make sure that story was told.
Right.
By doing the commentary and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with Kevin, doing the interviews and being right there. You're leading the audience to see something that we've created, that we've been a part of, that we sat down. And how many nights did we go over this stuff and try to get it right and try to figure it out, and the pressure that we put on ourselves to make the product the way we wanted it and make sure it got out there the way we wanted it. The passion is there. I can still feel it every time I watch a show that we did, and I can feel it out of Kevin. And we've talked, Kevin and I have talked. We only met at the end of all this.
Right.
We've only just started working together.
Right.
And I'm excited for what the future holds with the three of us and what we can do.
Yep. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
It's actually really interesting the way that Joe worded that too, because I look at the stuff that I did and then look at the stuff in the past in which that I was there for that.
Right.
You know, and just thinking about, like, you know, what difference could I have brought to the table? And I think it's great too, because it's I've known a lot of the people in the collection, various points of their career, various points of my career, and seeing the difference from when I knew them to what I'm watching. You know, seeing the evolution of everybody, seeing the evolution of the company. You know, going from, you know, Brutal Bob against Alex Arion, you know, to you know, Wagner Brown against Sean Burke. You know, it's I love the history of wrestling. I love the history of NECW. So being able to see everything in one collection and then putting all the pieces together and then already having constant ideas for things to do in the future is exciting.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, it's funny because I look at this stuff and I see things that we did and things I wish that we could have done, directions that I wouldn't have gone in if it were my choice alone. But like anything else in the creative realm, how you see it in your head is never how it's actually going to be. You know, when real people are out there doing it, all you can do at the end is stand at the back and watch and hope that it comes out okay. And for the most part, it did come out okay. I mean, yeah, there was some stuff that I would change. There's some stuff that, you know, people I wish I hadn't done business with that I did business with on both sides of the curtain and so forth. But, you know, that's with any business. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's part of how you get better, too. You know, in spite of all the ups and downs, I wouldn't have traded it for anything because it allowed it to get to where it is now and what I would like it to be. So, again, I didn't want this stuff to not be available to people. You know, we could have sold it as a DVD. I don't think we would have sold a lot of DVDs because the DVD business is going downhill. I wanted to make deals with people like High Spots. They weren't interested. They thought everything we did was online to begin with, and so they weren't interested in buying it or making it part of their online service. It's just as well, because I want as many people to see this stuff as can possibly see it. I don't want NECW to be like Century Wrestling Alliance, NWA New England, where you hear about it and maybe you see a clip here, maybe you see a clip there, but it's not there for people to consume. Tony Rumble was a wonderful guy. A wonderful, wonderful guy. And it's sad that he's gone 21 years now. But there's so little of his work that's out there. And it's a shame, because I think if more of his stuff was out there, people would really appreciate what he did and what he brought to wrestling in New England and what he brought to wrestling in general. So I don't want to fall into that category. I don't want to fall into the category of saying, well, gee, you know, if you were around him, you would have said, gee, it was good or whatever. But, you know, now who knows? Who cares? We don't see it, so we don't know. That's why this is out there. And, you know, as we dig up little things, I just by chance happened to come across that Biff Busick match, and I said, oh, well, let's put that up. You know, let's do that. Let's show that to folks. Let's people relive this and let them know that those guys who they see on TV came from somewhere. Anyway, it's what I give thanks for, since it's the Thanksgiving season and getting the holiday.
Nice segue.
Yes, I give thanks for all that, and for you guys too, which I've said before, but I'll say it again. I don't want people to lose sight of that. And that's going to wrap it up for us. For Joe Matarazzo, Kevin Castro, I'm Sheldon Goldberg. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for listening.
The ReGeneration podcast is a production of New England Championship Wrestling. To send us questions, comments, or feedback, email us at regenerationnecw@gmail.com.